Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Sager, the CEO and co-founder of Anchor Software. We are very excited to bring to you our latest webinar aimed at helping European and American and Caribbean charter brokers learn, expand, and grow their business in Asia. In particular, how to attract high net worth and ultra high net worth charterers from Asia. Quickly before we get into the presentation, we want to take you through the shows that our team will be at around the world in the coming 8 weeks. First of those being the Super Yacht Tech Summit in Barcelona. Michael Zappia, our head of product, and Vana, our BDM for Europe, will both be at that show. Myself and Vana are attending the Palm Beach show in late March, actually coming up next week. The Singapore Yachting Festival, April 10 to 13th. Myself and Elliot Cousins, my co-founder, will be attending that. Following a few weeks later, we will be exhibiting in San Remo at the MIBA show. At the same time, Francesca, Ivana, and Eleni will be exhibiting at the Emmy show in Poros. The entire team will be meeting customers and walking through our new products in Affluent for the Medi show, followed by Tiba. Vana, Eleni, and Francesca will be exhibiting in Gocek at Tiba, while myself and Elliot Cousins are attending the Super Yacht Summit in Hong Kong. Speaking of, the entire aim of this webinar is to educate, engage with, and help European and North American Caribbean charter brokers understand Asia, learn about the market, learn how they can engage with and grow their business in this region, and also attract charterers from the region to European and Caribbean and North American destinations. Part of that is attending in person the Singapore Yachting Festival. It is the single biggest show in 2025 in Asia. Myself and Elliot will be attending and hosting the preceding 2 days. There will be a tourism and chartering seminars. And we highly recommend that if anyone wants to understand and engage with the Asian market, to spend the time and come out to the show. Singapore is beautiful, great time of year, and it will be the single biggest show of the year. Now, very quickly, to introduce our guest speakers, which we're very lucky to have today. Tino Prosenik is the CEO of Yachtmaster Group, very well known in Europe. He's going to be taking you through the opportunities and different routes you could take on how to grow your business in Asia. Followed by Ben Taylor, who again is well known, helping many brands come to market to establish their brand to engage with customers. He's going to walk through his experience with that. Andrew MacArthur Edwards, I have had the personal privilege of knowing for over 20 years. He's helped a lot of brands come to Asia, grow their business and engage, and is the owner and CEO of one of the largest communications companies in Asia, being based in Singapore but covering the whole of the region from Taiwan, China, Vietnam, Singapore, etc. Paul Coffey has a very good presentation to take you through the Chinese high net worth individual market, and he works very closely with the leadership team at Louis Vuitton in Asia Pacific, and is going to walk you through examples of how to engage the market that you can directly apply to your brokerage. And we're very lucky to have Nigel Tang, who I had the privilege of listening to at last year's Hong Kong Super Yacht Summit. Probably gave the best presentation, hence why we asked him to join us. He has been a captain of some of the biggest super mega yachts in Asia, and now is a director at a very large family office based in Singapore, and is going to offer his perspectives.
Hi everyone, my name is Tino and I'm here to share my thoughts and experiences about networking in the yacht charter industry with the goal of expanding businesses horizontally as well as integrating vertically. Before I start philosophizing about the geometry of networking, allow me to introduce myself. I started dabbling in this industry sometimes before the end of the last millennium, yet that dramatic. I was crew, then sales, then management, and today I'm part of the Yachtmaster Group. Its projects including the largest specialized charter trade show in the world, ICE, in Amsterdam, the Super Yacht Show in Croatia, and some conference-style events in Italy and Greece. It started locally and mostly bareboat, expanded both horizontally and vertically over the last 3 decades. I personally was never a big networking fan. Never really considered it of importance. I saw business as a sailing race where it can be detrimental to observe others while relying on one's own skill and strategy usually brings out the best chances of victory. Unfortunately, there is something called tunnel vision, and it's an everyday occurrence in business, mostly present with people whose days are extremely full. We sometimes focus on operations and our own keystrokes so intensely that the world of opportunities will pass us by. Networking is a simple solution to this problem. Just to get one thing out of the way, networking is inevitably and immediately associated with socializing and parties. That is a part of the story, of course, but don't let it fool you. Networking has evolved in recent history like never before. The digital evolution has brought almost unlimited networking potential. Networking is still essential for growth, no matter what paths or tools for growth you should use. Any expansion outside your known structures will require a network. Expansions can be horizontal, like expanding your fleet in other geographic areas, or aiming to acquire new customers in new outbound markets. While vertical integration would be adding services below or above yours in the value chain, thus adding value to your own position. For a central agent, for example, this could mean involving themselves with crew or supply management, while a retail broker could directly sign up yacht owners, affiliate with hospitality and logistics companies, etc. Regardless of the type of expansion, the rules are the same. Establish a network, research the value components in this network, and then execute on the path of gaining highest value. Today, we are primarily talking about opportunities for charter brokers, them being the most flexible and agile entities in the value chain. Brokers that aim to expand their reach in Asia, in my view, have couple major options with different short-term and long-term pros and cons. For one, going solo. The one side of the spectrum means to expand in order to address customers directly. This is the hardest, most expensive, and by far the most complex option, with significant investment in staffing, marketing, especially, as well as research. This option is somewhat like a new startup. In the long run, such pure horizontal expansions, when successful, yield the highest returns and can possibly result in multiples of previous revenues. This is only the only true expansion option, actually, where the potential of increasing value is fully harnessed. This is quite rare and reserved for the biggest players with the biggest budgets. The alternative includes a more vertical integration, establishing long-term relationship with, for example, new central agents. You could call it the traditional way. This is the relationship that will not increase revenue in the short term, but in the long run, it could establish a new level of proficiency for the new area and thus generate more customers due to a wider palette of options. Usually, everybody instantly thinks of yacht availability platforms and dismisses any need for new partnerships since, everything you need is in the internet. This does not produce the needed result. With the rise of online booking in the land based accommodation as well as the yacht charter industry, the customer has now developed a feel for the generic offer opposed to the bespoke offer. These can be subtle differences, but powerful factors in the client's decision making process. By establishing deeper relationships with these remote partners through time, a transfer of knowledge will occur, transforming you and your customers' experience in subtle ways, leading towards more trust and thus higher conversion. So, expansions can be driven by internal growth, sure, but they mostly occur through networking and first-hand research. Even though online searches and reaching out to potential partners can produce some results, specialized events are the most productive way of finding the most suitable partners. Luxury yacht chartering in Asia Pacific region has been experiencing notable growth in recent years. Some prominent yachting hubs like Sanya in the Hainan province have reported a 20% year-on-year increase in number of registered yachts. And according to the Super Yacht Times, similarly, the whole region has seen a significant rise in super yacht activity starting 2022. The first data from 2024 indicates this trend might even be accelerating. All this makes attracting European and overseas clients to charter yachts in Asia the next most important step. Asian clients are also increasingly chartering in Europe. The trend of wealthy clients from Asia, particularly from countries like China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, South Korea, choosing Europe as a yacht charter destination more often than in recent years. All this creates the need to connect the industry on multiple levels. Deeper relationships are crucial to establish better information exchange between companies, not only the availability of charter yachts. This will result inevitably in increase in customer trust and therefore revenue. Whether on the established shows or the new conferences, the potential is enormous. One event at a time, one relationship at a time, we should aim towards a wider and more resilient network and fueling growth in this impressive industry. With this optimistic note, thank you and thank you.
Here we go. Hello, everybody. Today I would like to talk about trust and how it's built, and we're going to relate that into social media marketing and hopefully help you build a social media presence that really works for you, essentially because you can build trust. For myself, that's one of my core values. I run a lot of podcasts, so I have my own industry podcast called the Ben Taylor Podcast. I also host the ICOMIA podcast for the industry's most important conversations. And a lot of why they exist is because we can build trust. That's with the interviewees, it's for my personal brand, it's for ICOMIA, it's also for the sponsors. And the reason why that works is because it's really important to understand how valuable trust is. Most of the battle is to be consistent with values that people agree with. If those values waver, if they change, you start to degrade how much trust you have. But with consistency, they continue to build, they compound over time. And so if you look at really large brands that are focusing on trust so much, often these are banks, they're financial services companies, lawyers, solicitors, really key services that fundamentally require a lot of trust before you're going to engage with them. You'll see these brands spend a huge amount of money on just being present, just being there, being affiliated with trusted entities. A lot of people don't really understand why big advertisers would sponsor the NFL, the Olympic Games, some big sports events when their service is nothing to do with sports. Well, the answer arguably can be boiled down to trust building. So let's apply it to this industry. For charter brokers, it's leisure time almost all the time. And for that buyer, they're thinking, okay, well, I want the holiday of my lifetime. They're probably short on time, but have plenty of money. So the price actually becomes quite inelastic. It's secondary. Something like trust, the belief and the trust in yourself as a broker needs to be there, because that means they'll believe they'll receive the service that they're paying for, that they're hoping their holiday to be. And so let's link it back to how big brands are building trust. They're constantly there, they're building awareness, they're being consistent with their values. Let's put trust right at the top. It becomes really interesting when you're creating content, because suddenly if you're focusing on trust, actually your content probably does not need to be a boat tour or features on board a boat that are desirable and are part of the charter. It might actually be your knowledge. It might be you simply talking to a camera, much like this, saying, this is how I deal with a charter operator. This is the value I bring to my clients. Or can you present your knowledge so consistently that over time people trust you because of your know-how? That's probably one of the key reasons why customers are chartering through yourself as a broker. Focus on trust. It might not be directly. You don't have to say to people, trust me, trust me, trust me. That's probably not advisable. But create this value proposition that over time absolutely must build trust with your customers, your current customers, and your prospects. And that's brought me a lot of success. I hope it brings you a lot of success. So that's my key message for this webinar. My name is Ben Taylor. I'm the host of the Ben Taylor podcast. We focus on marine industry insights. I'm also the podcast host and producer for the ICOMIA podcast, which focuses on the industry's most important conversations. Find them on socials. You'll see them. Follow the channel. It's at Ben Taylor Podcast. Follow me on LinkedIn. You'll all be welcome to do that. I wish you the best of luck, and thank you for having me on this webinar. Ciao.
Hi and welcome. Look, Asia is highly diverse, and high net worth individuals across the region differ in consumer behaviour, in digital engagement, and cultural influences. I tend to divide them into three groups driving luxury market behaviour. First, I call them the traditionalists. Trust legacy brands, value social harmony, and prefer discreet luxury. Then we have the modernists, seeking digital engagement, experiential luxury, whilst maintaining cultural identity. And third, globalists. They blend global luxury trends with local influences, valuing exclusivity and authenticity. To engage effectively, brands must align their strategies with these three distinct mindsets. At Nowcoms Asia, we call this establishing motivation over medium, ensuring every marketing activity is built to discover, create for, and activate the specific audience. So, let's deep dive into these three groups. The traditionalists, deeply rooted in collectivist values, family and reputation shape buying decisions. They prefer heritage brands and understated luxury that signals status without excess. Trust is built through exclusivity, personalised service, and strong brand legacy. A good example of this would be many traditionalists in China prefer Swiss watchmakers like Patek Philippe because they emphasise craftsmanship and legacy over flashy branding. Marketing should emphasise storytelling, heritage, and private events, an approach we champion by crafting high-touch, trust-build campaigns that align with these values. Secondly, the modernists, a mixture of individualism within collectivism. Self-expression matters, but peer approval is still key. Highly digital and influenced by online content, social comments, and influences. Luxury means access to unique experiences rather than just ownership of goods. Very much your key target market. In Japan, for instance, young luxury consumers engage with Louis Vuitton limited edition drops promoted through influencers on Instagram and TikTok, creating both exclusivity and social status. So the marketing should leverage AI-driven personalization, influencers, and digital engagement. We tend to focus on blending cutting-edge digital engagement strategies with meaningful storytelling to captivate this audience. And finally, the globalists, much more like what you're traditionally talking to in other parts of the world. Cross-cultural, fluent blend of local and global influences in their purchase decisions. They expect exclusivity, seamless digital physical brand experiences, and high levels of customization. They follow global trends while supporting regional craftsmanship and niche luxury brands. For example, in Singapore, high net worth individuals often attend international art fairs and fashion collaborations, seeking bespoke, globally recognized brands that also incorporate local artistry. Marketing should be focused on global collaborations, experiential luxury, and cultural authenticity. So what platforms do you want to use to talk to this group? It is, again, very diverse across the region. So traditionalists, look for WeChat in China, for Line in Japan, KakaoTalk in South Korea, and Facebook across Southeast Asia for trusted connections. Modernists, Instagram, TikTok, and Xiaohongshu, or the Little Red Book in China. X is still very, very dominant in Japan for influencer-driven engagement. And for the globalists, LinkedIn, Instagram, high-end digital publications for exclusive and sophisticated content. The key takeaway here is that brands need to tailor digital strategies differently for the different groups to consume the content in different ways, ensuring the right message reaches the right audience. So let's look at the way that they consume this media differently. Traditionalists prefer long-form storytelling, brand heritage, and word-of-mouth recommendations. Modernists engage with interactive content, influencer campaigns, and live commerce. And globalists seek global luxury insights, niche cultural content across multiple platforms. So what this comes down to is strategic adjustment. Content must cater to multiple formats: heritage for traditionalists, digital interactivity for modernists, and elite experience for globalists. This aligns to the Discover, Create, Activate methodology. Ensure that the brand engages their audience at every touch point. If we look at the marketing strategy for each of these groups, let's start with traditionalists. Builds trust through brand heritage, private luxury events, and loyalty programs. Modernists leverage influencer marketing, digital concierge services, and social commerce. And for globalists, create culturally sophisticated campaigns, cross-border luxury collaborations, and high-touch experiences. We're seeing a growth in the exclusive club market in Asia, which focuses on bringing exclusive benefits to members. This channel allows brand alignment with other brands talking to the same groups. So what are the key takeaways? First, segment your strategy. Tailor approaches for traditionalists, modernists, and globalists. 2, engage on relevant platforms. Prioritize digital touchpoints based on audience behavior. 3, prioritize personalization. AI-driven recommendations and experiential marketing resonates with high net worth individuals. 4, respect cultural values. Balance collectivism, heritage, and individuality. 5, leverage cross-cultural fluency. Authenticity and exclusivity are critical for ultra-high net worth individuals. 6, align marketing efforts with motivation. Discovering the audience's core motivation before determining the medium. So, to succeed in the Asian luxury market, brands must adopt a segmented, hyper-personalized approach. Traditionalists, modernists, and globalists each require unique strategies, digital engagement, and cultural awareness. By following a motivation over medium approach, brands can ensure they truly connect with their audience. Thank you.
Asia's high net worth individuals, a market of discerning tastes and unparalleled expectations. Today we delve into the art of captivating this audience, exploring how yachting charters can elevate their offerings to match the standards of the world's most coveted luxury brands. From discreet, invitation-only previews to breathtaking fashion spectacles against the backdrop of iconic landmarks, luxury brands meticulously curate every touchpoint. It's about crafting an experience that mirrors the exquisite craftsmanship and unparalleled quality that define their legacy. Today we'll dissect how a leading luxury brand orchestrates a bespoke, experiential event to solidify its brand identity. Then we'll translate these principles into actionable strategies for yachting charters, demonstrating how to create a luxurious experience regardless of budget. Let's begin our exploration with Maison Dior, a brand that masterfully evokes the romance and elegance of luxury train travel to reinforce its brand identity and ignite desire.
We're traveling to Cannes on the Venice Simplon Orient Express.
I think it's about 15 hours. 18 hours.
There's going to be a couple of activities happening on the train.
I know there's a dinner tonight. I'm very excited to see what they have in store for us.
We got spa there, and I'm gonna have my facial treatment. I'm going to be ready for Cannes.
Alors le Venice Simplon Orient Express, bah ouais, ça m'évoque beaucoup de films, du voyage, du Darjeeling Limited.
And now just doing it with Dior, it just makes the experience 10 times better.
Please, everybody on board, get ready for depart!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board. I wish you to all your family a bon voyage. Thank you.
J'ai toujours rêvé de ce train, tout son imaginaire. J'ai eu la chance de le prendre plusieurs fois avant d'en devenir le chef. Et à chaque fois que je monte à bord et que je mets la veste, à chaque fois je me dis quelle chance j'ai
On n'a presque pas envie d'arriver à Cannes, pourtant on va au plus beau festival de cinéma du monde. C'est un voyage exceptionnel.
Just absolute astonishment. I don't think I've ever experienced or seen anything this glamorous and beautiful.
It's every little detail taken care of, so I'm excited to see what it's all about tonight.
To understand how this collaboration was recast for Asia, let's first consider 3 big trends influencing travel in this region. The current zeitgeist is defined by increased demand for travel, especially from China, a shift towards experiential luxury and the growing influence of digital channels. Let's look at each one and then consider its implications for the charter business. The first trend is the increase in demand for travel and holiday adventure, as the lingering effects of the pandemic recede into the background. We can better understand this impact by looking at some data from the recently concluded Chinese New Year holiday. Here we are looking specifically at travel numbers coming out of China. The total number of outbound trips showed healthy growth despite prevailing economic conditions. The extension of the holiday prompted travel to locations farther away, with short, medium, and long-haul destinations gaining at the expense of next-door destinations such as Hong Kong and Macau. Another way of thinking about this data is to recognize that the contribution of Hong Kong and Macau, whilst still critical in absolute numbers, is flat from last year to this. The interesting growth story here is travelers to locales further abroad as people go in search of richer cultural experiences. And that brings us to the second trend. Choices about where to travel and what to experience may well have been shaped by people like the 2 women you see here. Social media, and especially RedNote, has emerged as the most influential channel for inspiring holiday decisions. Your HNWI customer decisions about travel and lifestyle are increasingly shaped online, and what they are selling is clear: a culturally rich experience that allows her to feel immersed in luxury. The final trend to be embraced is the need to translate your boutique luxury experience into a format that resonates through digital media. As more and more experiential luxury is communicated through digital channels, your offering must be perfectly curated for this medium. Going back to our Belmond luxury train experience, we can see the effect this is having. The same journey you saw earlier in Europe has been recreated in Asia, this time winding its way through the tropical Malaysian countryside. Dior and Belmond have tapped into a thirst for this knowledge by building the platform, and now a network of influencers is helping to spread that message through their network of parasocial relationships. What you are seeing here is a search on RedNote for luxury train travel in Southeast Asia. The Belmond experience is front and center, helped along by willing network of content creators. From the perspective of a yacht charter, you have a tremendous amount of raw material to work with. The very nature of your service positions you to collaborate with food or beverage partners to craft a luxury experience, and there is a very healthy ecosystem of travel influencers available to help share this message. Beyond that, if you have additional funds to invest in paid media, you can work with partners to seek out your target audience specifically. You can find examples of this framework in action wherever you see a luxury brand marketing to Asian customers, and I look forward to answering your questions about how you can join them.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Captain Nigel Sang. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the unique dynamics of Asia's high net worth individuals and ultra high net worth individuals in the yachting sector. I spent about 10 years in the commercial side of seafaring, namely tankers, before transitioning into yachting. My most recent command was a 54-meter 942 TT super yacht, which spent 5 years in Asia, including 13 months in Cambodia. Today, I lead Warp Capital Yacht Management and Capital Zone Warehousing, overseeing luxury asset logistics, yacht operations and management services for high net worth individuals. We operate under a family office structure. I am by no means an expert, but simply sharing some experiences working amongst the Asian high net worth individuals. So in this session, I'll cover 3 topics. First, how Asia's high net worth individual and ultra high net worth individual buyers differ from Western ones, the major trends shaping yachting in the region, and common mistakes Western brokers make and how to succeed. Well, again, I'm not an expert, just sharing what I know. So, number 1, the unique DNA of Asia's high net worth individual and ultra high net worth individual. To truly understand Asia's luxury yacht market, it's essential to recognize that Asian high net worth individuals approach luxury assets differently from their Western counterparts. Privacy and discretion over public status. Unlike Western buyers, who often showcase their yachts at public events like Monaco Yacht Show, many Asian high net worth individuals prefer discreet ownership. I'll give you an example. A Chinese billionaire who purchased a 72-meter Larsen super yacht in 2021, which I think some of you may know, registered it under 3 offshore entities to maintain privacy. And despite owning that $200 million asset, he has never been photographed on it publicly. Apart from that, we also know that 70% of ultra high net worth individuals in Asia prefer to keep their wealth and assets hidden, compared to just 50% in Europe. So that should give you an idea of the difference in privacy and discretion. Number 2, business first, leisure second. Many Asian ultra high net worth individuals see yachting as a business tool rather than just a luxury item. Example, in 2022, a Singaporean hedge fund manager purchased a 55-meter Amos yacht and converted it into a corporate entertainment venue for high-value clients, his clients. The yacht was fully crewed all year round, but operated as a floating investment seminar space. And we also know that a 23 Knight Frank Wealth report, 67% of Asian ultra high net worth individuals consider yachts as investment assets, compared to just 38% in the US. I know it must sound strange, especially since we know that financially, owning a yacht and throwing money into the ground is the same thing. But remember that investments and their returns come in many different forms. Number 3, market fragmentation. There is no single yachting hub in Asia. Unlike Monaco or Fort Lauderdale, Asia lacks a centralized yachting hub. You do have yacht shows in Singapore and Thailand, but there is no international standard between these countries. The yachting industry is relatively young in Asia, and although there is catching up to do, we are getting there. Remember that industry infancy is often a regulation playground. There's a lot happening there, and there's a lot of changes happening. Hong Kong, once a dominant yachting hub, has seen about a 15% decline in yacht registrations due to political changes and tax policies. Singapore has become a growing centre, but limited marina space, and that makes it a bottleneck because it's just a little bit too small geographically. Thailand has saw a 38% increase in super yacht arrivals in 2023. So you can see that you've got 3 places going on: Singapore, Hong Kong, Thailand, but there is no central one. Now let's talk about yachting trends among Asian high net worth individuals. The first trend is charter first, buy later. Unlike in the West, Asian ultra high net worth individuals often spend years chartering before committing to ownership. Example, a Chinese property developer chartered a 50-meter Benetti for 18 months before purchasing his own 68-meter Fed ship in 2023. His reasoning? He wanted to understand crew dynamics, operational costs, and regulations before investing. The Asia-Pacific super yacht charter market also grew by 23% in 2023, with a 30% increase in first-time charterers. This is according to Super Yacht Intelligence. So you can see here that Asian ultra high net worth individuals, they like chartering first before buying. And this is an old trend actually. This used to happen back in the days in Europe when yachting wasn't a big thing. And like I just mentioned before, yachting is in its infancy here in Asia, so you have to give it time to grow. Eventually you'll get there, but this is what's happening now. The second trend is the rise of family offices in yacht ownership. Most Asian high net worth individuals buy yachts through family offices rather than personal ownership. Usually the owner would simply give a brief description of what he wants, and the family office does the rest. Why? Again, to maintain privacy and create a structure such that they do not have to get personally involved in the management. Remember, these are more often investments rather than luxury. So would you want to personally manage your investments? No, if you're the boss, you let people handle that. I'll give you an example. A family office in Singapore acquired a 60-meter Heeson yacht, but structured it under a trust in the BVI. There's also an 84-meter super yacht in Singapore, also structured under a trust in the BVI. So it's a very common structure. So this allows them to optimize tax benefits while keeping ownership confidential. Singapore's family office sector has grown 76% since 2020, with over 1,500 family offices managing over $300 billion. So you can see there's a massive amount of wealth being controlled by family offices. And in my own personal experience, usually when the owner wants something, he will just simply give a very brief description and he expects you to handle the rest. That's just how it is. Number 3, lack of infrastructure and investment opportunities. Asia lacks the deep maintenance and refit infrastructure available in Europe and the US. For example, many yachts in Southeast Asia will source spare parts, where they still source spare parts from Europe. This leads to logistical delays and high cost. For those operating yacht service facilities, this presents an opportunity for investment. It is not without regulatory challenges, though. Only 3% of the world's super yacht refit yachts are in Asia. Why Western brokers struggle in Asia and how to succeed. Let's talk about what common mistakes Western firms make. Number 1, over-reliance on direct sales tactics. In Asia, business is done through personal introductions and relationship building, not direct sales pitches. For example, a well-known European brokerage failed to secure a deal in China despite aggressive marketing. What's the problem? Well, they didn't engage local influencers or private wealth networks. They also don't use local digital platforms, which is my next topic, ignoring local digital platforms. So Western firms use Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, but these are irrelevant in certain places, for example, China. A successful yacht sale in China in 2022 was closed through WeChat and Xiaohongshu. So these platforms are unknown to most Western brokers, but they are basically the daily bread and butter of the Chinese people. First thing in the morning, they open WeChat, not Instagram. And the third mistake that Western firm makes is misunderstanding decision-making processes. In Asia, yacht purchases often involve multiple family members, business advisors, and lawyers. For example, a billionaire from Indonesia wanted to purchase a 65-meter Larsen yacht, but his financial advisor delayed the deal for 9 months to restructure ownership under a new trust. So how do you succeed in the Asian market? Well, number 1, you've got to build long-term relationships, attend private investment summits, partner with wealth advisors, and offer highly personalized service. The Asian ultra-high net worth, they, like I mentioned before, they don't really like getting personally involved in things. So you need to provide a full service solution. So the Asian high net worth individuals expect a one-stop solution, including management, crew, and legal structuring. So if you can provide this, then you already have an advantage in the market. And third, invest in localized marketing. Use WeChat, host invite-only events, and target family office networks. Remember, like I said before, most of the time, the owner or the UBO would simply mention briefly what he wants, and then the family office does the rest. So to wrap up my speech, Asia's high net worth individual market is one of the fastest growing, but demands a different approach, a unique approach. Relationships, not cold outreach, drive yacht sales. Yachts are viewed as business assets, not just luxury toys. Western firms must adapt their services and marketing to succeed. My firm, Warp Capital Yacht Management and Capital Zone Warehousing, we specialize in yacht operations, logistics, and luxury asset management for high net worth individuals. So if you're looking to expand into the Asian yachting or luxury asset market, then feel free to reach out to me. Thank you very much, and I hope the information I just shared will add value to your business.
Beautiful. Well, everyone, thank you for that. Some really, really good content. We've got some questions that have come through. There's a mix of mostly from YouTube, actually. So I wrote some of them down while they came in during the preso. So thanks, Ben, Tino, and Andrew for being here. There was one from Paul, but I think he isn't here, so I'll try to answer his. So the first one that came in, Tino, that was when you were actually talking in your first part. Lucy in Indonesia, she's got a small fleet of 5 sort of the more wooden boats in Indonesia. She doesn't know what shows to go to attract European brokers. They'd like to start doing it, but they don't know how. What I mean, you've got a vested interest with that answer, but what would you recommend? I think you're on mute. I will. There you go.
I am unmuted myself. Thank you. Good day, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. Mike, thank you for inviting us. Regarding Lucy, if I heard well, you mentioned traditional boats. So that will be something that is not off the rack. It's not a serial product, and it's probably demanding a let's say a product recognition time from the customer and the charter broker. So I would definitely recommend to prepare some educational material to highlight the pros and the cons, or the upside and the downside of the fleet, of the boat, of the models, and try to see where this fleet can position itself on the market. As I would like to say, also horizontally and vertically. I would say the European market is very open towards traditional built-tip boats, and I don't know the price range, but I believe they can fit anywhere. Where to go directly? I mean, obviously from I believe you said Indonesia, traveling to Europe or US would be going to trade shows rather than boat shows, because you cannot showcase your boat. I would say wherever you can find a concentration of charter brokers, the first step would be let's call it research to have face-to-face dialogue with at least a dozen different charter brokers, and see what they will recognize from the product. You present to them and listen what they're saying. They will give you honest comments, I'm sure, about the pricing position, about the features of the yachts, and where and to whom you could offer the boats. So anywhere, from I don't know the length or the price range of the boats mentioned. So if they are crude boats, they would definitely go to any boat show. Basically, if they're let's say 100K plus per week level, then specific specialized shows in Croatia. That would be probably shows in Greece, like Naflion or Poros, and obviously the ICE in Amsterdam. In the US, probably Fort Lauderdale. The thing is, it's not even important where to go. The first step would be just meet a dozen charter brokers, let them tell you why they love it or why they hate it, and then you will be able to structure the story to whomever the product fits.
Cool. Thanks. I know you did sneak ice in there. I did notice. Hey, Paul, thanks for joining. The next one was actually for you. I think your voice almost sounds like it's AI generated. Of everybody here, you sound like you're the one that's made by our future tech overlords. You might be on mute. I will unmute you.
The voice in that particular video is not my real voice. That was an AI voice. This is my real voice, which is going to sound a bit different to like the polished English accent that I always use whenever I'm making a video for luxury.
Okay, cool, good. Well, there you go. It's not too different anyway. But there is a question regardless.
Sure.
So this is from Kostas. I'm guessing Greek. They want to know what languages does because it's listening to the presentations. I always try to put things like in a bit of a grid. There's the countries, the digital platforms, the type of segment, and then the languages the content needs to be produced in.
Yeah.
How many languages does this need to cover? Is it Mandarin? Is it Thai? Like how much can you get away with English versus doing it in a local language? And Andrew, you might have a comment on that too.
Your materials might be in English, like your website might be in English, but I think but that's the joy of working with local content creators. Like you only have to do your piece in English, and then the local content creators who you work with, they will kind of handle then kind of like translating it into the local language. So I think you have to be English to start with, and then if you really don't have the capacity to go beyond that, that's okay. let the creators kind of localize on your behalf. But beyond that, if you want to pick a few different languages, it would just be depending on the target audience. I mean, Chinese travelers is such a phenomenon in Asia Pacific at the moment because of their tendency to spend when they go abroad, because they really kind of think about it, they plan it, and then they really like to sort of like maximize their time abroad to spend money. So it's considered a particularly lucrative market. So if you think you've got a good offering for that market, if you think you've got like, you know, something that's going to appeal in particular to that market, then it might be worth going into that language. But my high level would be just English to start with, and let the content creators do that on your behalf, or as many as you feel you need based on specific markets you want to go after.
Okay, that's actually not a bad segue to this other one that came for, I think this is probably a good one for you, Andrew. So this one, they didn't put their name down, but they said it was a bit hard to follow what apps to use in the different countries. Like I think Nigel spoke to one I couldn't even catch at the end for China. WeChat, I heard. Redbook. Can you just summarize again what are the, obviously you go through local creators, but for them to know what are the non-Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn sites they need to use for Asia? If you could just summarize that again.
Yeah, sure. So look, the only two that you really need to worry about is using for Greater China is Little Red Book, as it's called over there. Sorry, the Chinese pronunciation is not coming to mind right this second. But Little Red Book is very, very popular over there. And WeChat is kind of the replacement you would have for what you do with WhatsApp or instant messaging in other parts of the world. So they're quite vital to start to look at those channels. We've seen a big move. We're seeing a lot of people in the US using Little Red Book now. With the when the threat of TikTok going away came out, because it's effectively the Chinese version of still run by the same company, but the Chinese version of that, and leads through to there. Across the rest, you know, X still very, very strong. Twitter still very, very strong in Japan as a primary source. But the rest of the markets, TikTok and Instagram are big hitters. And again, it's which sector of the market are you after? Following on from Paul's point around language translation, if you're talking to the traditionalists, local language is incredibly important. So making sure that whoever's providing you the content that's going to those people is talking to them in local language. The modernists, not so much. The modernists are generally educated overseas. The English is a language that they understand, they speak, and they're not so stuck in using local language as much. So again, how you produce the content, make sure content works for that group of people is really important. And then Little Red Book for China, then Instagram, TikTok, X still in. The great thing of with Twitter and X is, for us, it's very few characters. For someone in Japan, 280 characters is a novel. You can say so much. So it caught on there very early. It's very, very insidious in the market.
So X is pretty much only Japan. Did I hear that right?
Yeah. It's still, X is very strong in Japan still. It hasn't died away the same way it's died away in other markets, where Instagram and TikTok have really picked up and taken over the marketplace in those locations.
Okay.
Can I offer to add to that? If you're looking into Thailand, Taiwan, and Japan, I would also consider Line, Line. So Line, especially in Taiwan. So if you watch the way that the Line ecosystem is evolving in Taiwan in terms of adding social commerce, adding chat, adding adding official accounts to provide customer service. So basically Line is sort of taking the WeChat model that they're building for China, and then they're kind of developing the similar ecosystem. So certainly for, and it just happens for whatever reason, there's just a few markets where it's particularly powerful. So I totally concur with Andrew there in terms of the primacy of WeChat, and especially Little Red Book for China, because it's just off the charts in terms of how influential it is. But yeah, Line is another one to consider as well.
And WhatsApp. I mean, if your people are coming from Europe and from even Australia, they probably don't understand how big WhatsApp has become in Southeast Asia and through all those markets. So you might just think of it as a messaging tool, but it's far more than that. It's being used for business, quite predominantly for Southeast Asia.
So, two things. Why European brokerages do not put WhatsApp on their website, I fundamentally still do not understand. Like, if you go to private jets, everywhere. You go to like the top end of hotels, everywhere. You look at the biggest 8 brokers in the world, one of them has it. Maybe we did an audit and it was just mind-boggling. Like, they're missing out on.
As far as a link on your website goes, you must have WeChat, you must have WhatsApp, or and Line for those specific markets is important. It's probably crowding out your website, but if you're multi-paging and you've got different pages for different people, absolutely, Thailand Line is very, very big.
So there's one quick last one, and this one isn't actually a question, but I think it's good for Ben, for you to talk to, kind of like an extension of what Lucy asked. The brokerages in the central agencies in Asia, they don't have many shows to go to. I mean, you basically said Nigel said there's Thailand, the show we went to recently, and then there's Singapore. That's it, like for the entire huge region. So these experiences, they have to try to get the walkthroughs of the boats to European brokers. So then what would be your advice for Asian central agencies and fleet managers? You'd use the word trust a lot, but what do they need to think about to get their fleet virtually, if they can't do what Tino said? How do they get that content into what resonates with Europeans and Americans that they may not be used to? Because this whole webinar is about attracting Asia, but there are central agencies that want to go the other way.
Yeah, so I think there's 2 parts to this. Part number 1 is finding a partner. So I actually came across a boat builder, okay, slightly different, but they're looking at the Middle Eastern market a couple weeks ago now, during the Dubai International Boat Show. And they're a European builder, have a very good presence across Europe and actually the US as well. And they're kind of getting excited about the Middle Eastern market. And so they're walking the show thinking, okay, how do we enter this market? There's a couple of strategies that they were thinking about, from having their own corporate presence or find a key partner that can represent them. I think a very similar strategy is perfectly relevant here, where you look at who already has that connection, those relationships with the demand side that could charter these boats in Asia, and then really leverage that relationship to be able to serve that market and use that as a kind of connection. I suppose that's really on the strategic side and business relationship side. From a content and marketing perspective, I think to show in a really relatable, relevant way to that new audience that you want to access is really important. We've touched on language. People love consuming content in their primary and native language, even if they're very competent in a second or third or many more of the languages. And so to create content that really resonates with them and that market is really important. The big question is, how do you do it? Well, one marketing strategy that I've started looking at, I'm starting to try and do more of, that's perfectly relevant to people here, is through being guests on podcasts to markets that are really interested in this. So
you get points for the plug.
Yeah. So so you can do this content strategy where basically you're just a guest. You talk about what you do, which is incredibly interesting. I think a lot of brokers forget how unique it is that you can actually get access to large yachts and you can do whatever you want with them for a week. People will find that very engaging. It's really good content. So if you really look at what kind of podcasts and creators have your target market in their audience, then just ask to be on and be a guest. And it might be remote, which makes it really, really quite efficient in terms of time and resources and travel costs and all that kind of thing. It might be in person. That's obviously even better. But very quickly, you can appear in front of that audience quite regularly on a few different fronts. And it's just a completely different strategy compared to setting up an account on one of the platforms we've mentioned today, or another account, so that you're not just on Facebook and on Instagram, but you're now also on TikTok and your WhatsApp story and your WeChat story and all that kind of thing, which can get to a pretty massive workload very quickly. And how to do this is there's plenty of platforms now that are connecting the podcast hosts with the guests. And so if you register on these things, you can actually say, well, look, I'm putting an application into 10, maybe 20 podcasts in a day. You might be a visitor on 3, maybe 5 of those, but in a morning, you've created a hell of a lot of content going to a lot of people very, very quickly. So that's kind of my 2 pence.
Cool. Well, I will the last 1 minute, because there are no more questions that came through, but Susie, who is awesome, by the way, one of my faves in Asia. She's one of the directors over at the Asia Pacific Super Yacht Association. She made a good point in the chat that all the tech we're talking about is literally blocked. In like China, you can't get picked up. Sorry, other way around. You can't get line, etc. So your strategies are very specific, regulatory-wise, to certain markets. And the apps is there. If you go to the her comment on the LinkedIn, you can see APSA's website if you have any questions. One other point I'll make is come to the Singapore Yachting Festival, and Anchor is running a very, very big webinar, both live in Sydney, because we've just moved into a brand spanking new startup hub office, but we're running a whole webinar on AI. We are going hell for leather on AI, and I think people are going to be absolutely shocked at what we're bringing to market. We're being very quiet about it. Everyone's doing their little firecracker going off, but we got a lot of shit coming. Sorry, webinar. Be professional, Mike. So we have a lot of stuff coming. We're very, very proud of that. That'll come in about 8 weeks. So we'll be running it in Sydney, but we will have a version of it live where we're walking through all of the AI bots, standalone products, product extensions, features that are so going to be really good for brokerages. So if I'm a brokerage and I've got a team of 8 people that are maintaining a yacht database, probably don't need that team of 8 anymore. You got to leverage the AI to drive customer experience, do curated, do all these things that we're talking about, connecting off to all the different systems. So keep an eye out for that one. Tino, Andrew, Paul, Ben, and Nigel, thank you so much. I know it's late, especially for Andrew. I need Paul down here as well, just like me, coming on midnight. So thanks, guys. Tino, we'll see you soon in Europe. We'll see all you guys quite soon. Thanks, everyone.